Before we begin, may I ask you something very quietly? Have you ever noticed how the mind can take something very small and somehow turn it into something enormous? A text that goes unanswered, and suddenly it becomes evidence that someone is angry. A mistake at work, and somehow it becomes beginning of losing everything. A strange sensation in the body. And before long, the imagination has already traveled years into a future that has not happened. Perhaps you know this journey, not because you chose it, but because it happened so quickly that by the time you notice, you already feel frightened. Because catastrophizing rarely begins with panic. It begins with possibility, a possibility the mind mistakes for certainty. One tiny pebble quietly becoming an entire mountain. But what if the mountain was never built by reality? What if it was built one imagined pebble at a time? And if that were true, could it also be true that the mountain could disappear one pebble at a time? This is a story about that discovery. There was once a traveler who lived beside a vast valley. Every morning, the traveler looked toward a beautiful path that wound gently between green hills towards forests, streams, and distant meadows. People often walked the path. Some returned with stories, some returned with wisdom, some returned changed. The traveler wanted more than anything to walk it too. Yet, every time they prepared to begin, something happened. Far away on the horizon, a mountain appeared. It was enormous, dark, impossible. The traveler would sigh, "Not today." Days passed, weeks passed, months. The mountain always seemed to arrive whenever a new journey was about to begin. One afternoon, an old woman happened to be passing through the same valley. She noticed the traveler watching the mountain. "You've been waiting a long time." "I can't cross. The mountain is too large." The old woman looked, then smiled gently. "What mountain?" The traveler blinked. "The one right there." The woman shaded her eyes. "I see no mountain." The traveler stared. How could she not? It dominated the horizon. It blocked everything. Its shadow seemed endless. The old woman walked several steps forward. "Come." The traveler hesitated. "I can't." "You haven't tried." "It's dangerous." "It is?" "It looks dangerous." The old woman nodded thoughtfully. Looking dangerous and being dangerous are not always the same thing. Reluctantly, the traveler followed. Just a few steps. The mountain remained, still huge, still impossible. But something curious happened. The closer they walked, the stranger it looked. It no longer seemed smooth. Instead, its surface shimmered strangely, almost as though it wasn't solid at all. When they arrived, the traveler reached out, expecting cold stone. Instead, a tiny pebble rolled into their hand. Confused, they looked around. The mountain was made entirely of pebbles, millions of them, each one small enough to fit into a pocket. The traveler laughed nervously. "But how?" The old woman knelt. She picked up one pebble. Written upon it were words. "What if they reject you?" She picked up another. "What if you embarrass yourself?" Another. "What if everyone notices?" Another. "What if you fail?" Another. "What if something terrible happens?" Another. "What if this feeling never ends?" Pebble after pebble, question after question, prediction after prediction. Not one contained proof, only possibility. The traveler looked carefully. Thousands of pebbles, each carrying a different fear, each one placed beside another, until together they resembled certainty. The traveler whispered, "So the mountain," the old woman smiled, "is built from imagined futures?" The traveler sat quietly. "So I created it?" "No, you inherited the habit." She explained that every human mind was designed to imagine danger. Long ago, this kept people alive, to wonder, what if the bushes hide a predator? Was useful. To prepare, what if the river floods? Was wise. The imagination was once a faithful servant, but somewhere along the way it forgot that most imagined dangers never arrive. Instead, it kept collecting pebbles. What if, what if, what if? Never realizing that possibility had quietly disguised itself as certainty. The traveler looked across the valley again. People continued walking, laughing, bawling, standing again, meeting strangers, trying, learning, living. Some stumbled, some became lost briefly, yet none were crushed beneath the mountain, because only the travelers stopped before reaching it. The old woman picked up another pebble. "What does this one say?" The traveler read out loud. "If one thing goes wrong, everything will go wrong." She smiled. "Does it say that because it is true, or because it is frightened?" The traveler paused. "I don't know." "You do." After a long silence, "It is frightened?" The pebble instantly became lighter. The woman continued. "Notice something." The traveler looked closer. The pebble repeated themselves. Different wording, same fear. "You'll never recover. This always happens. Nothing will work. Everyone will know. You won't survive." Again and again, the same fears, simply wearing different clothes. For the first time, the traveler realized the mountain wasn't infinite. It was repetitive. The mind was not inventing endless new disasters. It was recycling the same handfuls over and over. The old woman handed the traveler a small satchel. "What is this for?" "Pebbles." "What should I do with them?" "Examine them, one by one, not all at once." Whenever fear appeared, the traveler picked up a pebble, read it carefully, then asked, "Is this happening, or is this only predicted?" Sometimes the pebble dissolved immediately. Sometimes it remained, but became smaller. Sometimes another question appeared. What evidence do I have? Sometimes, what else could be true? Sometimes, if someone I love believed this, what would I tell them? Each question removed another pebble. Weeks passed. The traveler noticed something remarkable. The mountain had become a hill. Months later, a pile. Then, just scattered stones. The valley had never changed, only perception. One morning, dark clouds appeared. Rain began falling. The traveler smiled. Once, rain would have become a flood, then a landslide, then the ending of everything. Now, it was simply rain. Wet, temporary, passing. Another day, someone frowned while walking past. The old habit whispered, "They're upset with you." The traveler picked up an imaginary pebble, read it, smiled, placed it back on the ground. Or perhaps they're simply thinking. The pebble disappeared. Another morning, a strange ache appeared. The mind whispered, "What if?" The traveler waited, breathed, observed. The ache faded before breakfast. the mountain never arrived. Years later, the traveler became known throughout the valley, not because they never worried, but because they no longer worshipped every frightening thought. When young travelers became frightened, they visited. "I can't begin, the mountain is too large." The traveler smiled gently. "I know, I lived beside it for years. What should I do?" The traveler knelt, picked up a single pebble, placed it in their hand. "What does yours say?" They read it. The traveler nodded. "Good, now ask it, whether it's telling the future or merely guessing." The young traveler frowned thoughtfully. The pebble seemed smaller already. As years continued, the valley changed. Children played, trees grew, storms came and went. People succeeded, people failed, people loved, people grieved. Life unfolded exactly as life always had. Never perfectly, never permanently disastrous. Simply one moment after another. And the traveler eventually understood the greatest secret. The old woman had never spoken out loud. The mountain was never removed. By proving every fear impossible, it disappeared, because the traveler stopped treating imagination as prophecy. And perhaps, as you listen, you may notice how many mountains were never really mountains at all. Perhaps some have already begun returning to pebbles, one thought, one question, one breath at a time. Because the mind will always imagine. That is what minds do. But you are becoming someone who can pause, pick up each pebble, turn it over gently, and decide whether it belongs in the mountain or back upon the earth. And perhaps tonight, or tomorrow, or the next time a frightening thought arrives, you may quietly smile, recognizing an old familiar pebble that once seemed enormous, and without effort, without struggle, you may simply leave it where it belongs, small, harmless, just another pebble beside a path that has always been waiting for you to walk forward. Now, the story has ended, and yet, perhaps, the most important part is only just beginning, because stories have a curious way of continuing long after the words themselves have become quiet. Some stories remain only in memory, and others continue unfolding. Some are beneath awareness, like a seed settling gently into rich soil, without needing to force itself to grow, without needing to know exactly how, simply allowing nature to do what nature has always done. So if you wish, there is nothing you need to do now, except allow yourself to become comfortable, perhaps noticing the surface beneath you, supporting every part of your body, holding you effortlessly, as though for just a little while you no longer need to carry anything, nothing to solve, nothing to predict, nothing to prepare. Simply this moment, and perhaps you begin noticing your breathing, not changing it, not controlling it, only observing the gentle rhythm that has always been happening all along. Breathing in and breathing out, without effort, without instruction, without needing your help. And isn't it interesting how the body already knows how to do so many things without the thinking mind becoming involved? Your heart beats, your lungs breathe, your cells repair, Your muscles soften all by themselves. And perhaps, just as the body already knows how to heal, the deeper mind already knows how to let go. Not all at once, not dramatically, simply naturally, the way autumn leaves release themselves when the time is right. So as you continue breathing, you may begin noticing that with every comfortable breath out, some tiny amount of unnecessary effort simply leaves with it. Perhaps the muscles around your forehead become just a little smoother, the tiny muscles around your eyes finding rest, your jaw no longer needing to hold, your neck, your shoulders becoming pleasantly heavy, as though gravity has suddenly become your friend, supporting you, holding you, inviting every muscle to remember how relaxation feels. Because there is a difference between holding and supporting. Holding requires effort, supporting requires none. Allow your shoulders to discover they no longer need to hold the weight of imagined tomorrows, your arms growing comfortably heavy, your hands quiet, still, at ease. And perhaps you notice that even while listening, your thoughts may still come and go. That is perfectly natural. Thoughts are what minds create, just as clouds move across the sky. The sky never struggles to remove the clouds. It simply allows them to pass. And perhaps you are beginning to discover that awareness is much larger than thought, just as the sky is much larger than any passing cloud. Now imagine, very gently, that you are once again standing beside that familiar path. Only this time, the valley feels peaceful. The air cool, fresh, comfortable. The sunlight soft and warm. Birds calling gently somewhere in the distance. The earth beneath your feet, steady, reliable, safe. And ahead, you notice a small pile of pebbles. Not a mountain, only pebbles, one by one, resting quietly, waiting. You kneel beside them, curious, and without effort, you pick up the first pebble. Upon it, words appear. What if something goes wrong? You smile gently, not arguing, not resisting, only asking, is that happening now? The pebble becomes lighter, smaller, almost weightless. You place it back upon the ground, where it simply becomes an ordinary stone. Another pebble waits. What if they don't like me? You notice how familiar that voice sounds. Old, predictable, trying to protect, trying to prepare. You thank it for trying, then quietly ask, do I know that? The pebble softens, becoming smooth, warm, ordinary. Back onto the earth. Another pebble waits. What if I fail? You pause. Then another question arrives naturally. And if I did, would that truly be the end? Or simply another beginning? The pebble crumbles gently into tiny grains of sand, disappearing into the path. One after another, the pebbles continue, each carrying an old prediction, an old habit, an old assumption. Not enemies, only frightened messengers, trying in the only way they have ever known to keep you safe. And perhaps for the first time, you feel compassion for that part of your mind, because catastrophizing has never been cruelty. It has always been protection, working far too hard, like a smoke alarm that begins ringing whenever toast burns. Useful, once exhausting, now, so you simply thank it. Thank you for trying to protect me. And from now on, I will decide what truly requires my attention. The smoke alarm can finally rest as you continue walking. The path widens. Trees sway gently, the branches moving without effort, never wondering whether the next breeze will be too much, never predicting every possible storm, simply responding to what is actually here, moment by moment. And perhaps there is wisdom in that, because trees do not prepare for every imagined winter. They simply grow. Today, you continue along that trail. Soon, you come upon a clear stream, its water moving effortlessly around stones, never arguing, never forcing, simply flowing. And as you watch, a fascinating realization begins forming. The stream never stops to calculate every turn it will ever take. It simply responds to the next one. One bend, then another. One moment, then another. Perhaps your own life can unfold in much the same way. You do not need to solve every future today. Only this moment, this breath, this step, nothing more, and somehow nothing less. The stream continues flowing, carrying with it tiny leaves, little twigs, loose pebbles, and now, without effort, you begin placing old catastrophic thoughts into the water, one by one. What if everything falls apart into the stream? What if I can't handle it into the stream? What if this feeling never ends into the stream? Each one floating away, growing smaller, more distant, until they disappear around the bend, never needing to chase them, never needing to force them away. Because what is released naturally does not need to be pushed. It simply continues downstream. Now, as your breathing remains slow, comfortable, easy, you begin noticing something else. A spaciousness, not outside you, within you. A quiet place that has always existed, untouched by worry, untouched by prediction, untouched by imagined futures. The observing mind, the peaceful witness, the part of you that notices thoughts without becoming them, that notices emotions without becoming trapped inside them, that notices fear while remaining perfectly safe. Perhaps this peaceful awareness has been here your entire life, patiently waiting for you to notice, and now it feels familiar, like coming home. You realize you have never been your catastrophic thoughts. You have simply been the one who notices them, and that changes everything, because thoughts can come, thoughts can go, predictions can appear, predictions can disappear, but the awareness watching them remains calm, steady, quiet, like the sky watching clouds, like the mountain watching weather, like the ocean watching waves. Deep beneath every passing storm, there has always been a peaceful place inside you, a place that knows the future has not yet arrived, a place that trusts you will meet tomorrow when tomorrow becomes today, not before. And because of that, your nervous system can begin learning a completely different way of living. Less predicting, more noticing. Less assuming, more observing. Less fearing, more trusting. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you become present. And presence has a remarkable way of dissolving imagined mountains before they have ever built. So from this day forward, whenever your mind offers you another pebble, you may simply smile, pick it up gently, read what it says, and ask, is this happening? Or is my imagination trying to protect me? And often that question alone will be enough. Enough to loosen the grip, enough to soften the body, enough to quiet the heart, enough to remember that not every thought deserves belief, and not every fear requires action. You are becoming someone who pauses, someone who notices, someone who chooses, someone who no longer mistakes possibility for certainty. And perhaps that transformation has already begun, quietly, deeply, naturally, in ways you may only fully appreciate days from now or weeks from now, as you notice yourselves responding differently, feeling lighter, more curious, more present, as though life itself has become easier, not because the world changed, but because you no longer carry a mountain made only of pebbles. And as your unconscious mind continues integrating everything that serves you, you can simply rest here for as long as you wish, knowing that every calm breath strengthens calm thinking. Every present moment weakens imagined catastrophe. Every peaceful observation builds a new habit. One pebble, one breath, one moment at a time. And that is more than enough.
I was standing in a quiet valley with the road calling out my name. Every dream was just beyond the sunrise, but I never stepped into the day. There was always something in the distance, a shadow reaching into the sky. Every time I tried to start believing, a mountain rose before my eyes. It whispered, what if you fall? What if you lose? What if the world sees right through you? I thought those echoes were the truth until I learned they were only fear. 'Cause every mountain I was climbing was only pebbles in disguise. Every what if that I carried made the horizon seem too high. One by one I laid them down, watched the earth become the ground. Now I know the path was always there, I just couldn't see it through the fear. The mountain fades, one pebble at a time. There was someone who walked beside me with gentle eyes that seemed to know. They never tried to move the mountain, they simply asked me to look close. In my hand was just a tiny stone with words carved deep inside its face. What if everyone rejects you? What if hope is a big mistake? Then another, every stone a different story. But underneath the painted surface, every field was dressed the same. They asked me softly, is this happening? Or is it only guessing? For the first time in so many years, the silence answered back. 'Cause every mountain I was climbing was only pebbles in disguise. Every what if that I carried made the horizon seem too high. One by one I laid them down, watched the earth become the ground. Now I know the path was always there, I just couldn't see it through the fear. The mountain fades, one pebble at a time. Maybe the mind was only trying to keep a frightened heart alive. Maybe every dark prediction was love wearing the wrong disguise. And maybe courage isn't certainty, maybe it never has to be. Maybe courage is just taking one more step before tomorrow has a chance to become a tragedy that never comes. Now every mountain that appears I see with different eyes. I know the tallest walls are often built from thoughts that magnify. Every question loses power when I hold it to the light. I don't have to know tomorrow to keep walking through tonight. The valley never changed at all, only the stories in my mind. Now every sunrise feels much closer, every dream feels worth the climb. If another mountain rises, I already know the way. I'll pick up just one little pebble and let the rest fade away. The path was never blocked, only imagined. The future was never written, only guessed. And every step I take today is stronger than 1,000 fearful tomorrows. One pebble, one breath, one moment, one beautiful step at a time.
So here are the key meanings of the story. Number 1, most anxiety begins with a single thought. The story illustrates how catastrophizing rarely starts with overwhelming fear. It begins with one small what if that is believed without question. Left unexamined, that single thought attracts more fearful thoughts until it feels like an enormous mountain. Number 2, catastrophizing mistakes possibility for probability. One of the central lessons is that the mind often treats imagined outcomes as if they are bound to happen. The traveler discovers that every pebble is only a possibility, not a prediction. Learning this distinction is one of the most powerful ways to reduce anxiety. Number 3, the mind is trying to protect you, not punish you. The mountain is not built out of weakness or brokenness. It is built by a protective mind that has become overactive. Catastrophic thinking developed as a survival strategy, even if it is no longer helpful in everyday life. Number 4, fear grows when it is never examined. From a distance, the mountain appears solid and impossible. Only by walking toward it does the traveler discover it is made of tiny pebbles. Likewise, many fears shrink when we become curious instead of avoidant. Number 5, awareness breaks the cycle. The single act of asking, "Is this happening now, or is this my imagination?" interrupts the automatic chain reaction of catastrophic thinking. Awareness creates space between thought and emotional response. Number 6, the mind recycles the same fears. The traveler notices that many of the pebbles carry different wording but expresses the same underlying fear. This reflects how anxious minds often replay a small number of core worries in countless different situations. Number 7, life is meant to be lived one step at a time. The people walking through the valley continue living despite uncertainty. The story reminds us that we never have to solve an entire lifetime of problems today. We only have to take the next step that is actually in front of us. Number 8, you are not your thoughts. One of the deepest messages of the story is that thoughts are events in the mind, not facts about reality. You can observe a frightening thought without becoming trapped inside it. The observer is always larger than the thought of being observed. Number 9, courage is built through small moments. The mountain disappears one pebble at a time, not all at once. Likewise, emotional resilience grows through repeated moments of questioning fearful assumptions, choosing presence, and taking small actions despite uncertainty. Number 10, peace comes from trusting the present. The story ends by revealing that the traveler did not eliminate uncertainty. They simply stopped treating imagination as prophecy. Real peace comes from trusting that whatever tomorrow brings, you will meet it when it arrives, rather than suffering through it in advance. And maybe the next time your mind begins building a mountain out of one small pebble, you can pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this truly happening, or am I standing before a future that only exists in my imagination? Because peace does not always arrive when every problem disappears. Sometimes peace begins the moment you realize you do not have to climb a mountain that was never really there. Until next time, be well.